I found my wife's second phone taped behind our bedroom dresser on the morning of our 10th anniversary. Not because I was looking for it, not because I suspected anything, but because our golden retriever Bailey knocked over a glass of water that seeped under the furniture, and when I pulled the dresser away from the wall to clean up the mess, there it was. A cheap Android device secured with duct tape, still warm from recent use. My hands shook as I peeled it free. The screen lit up with a dozen unread messages, all from a contact save simply as, Jay. Can't wait to see you today. Same hotel? Your husband still clueless? Bring that red thing I like. The water puddled at my feet, forgotten. Bailey whined and pressed his nose against my leg, sensing something wrong in a way only dogs can. I stood there in our bedroom, the room where Natalie and I had made love hundreds of times, where we'd whispered plans for our future, where she'd cried happy tears when I proposed, and felt my entire world tilt sideways. The date on the messages went back 14 months. 14 months. I heard the shower shut off down the hall. Natalie would be out in minutes, wrapped in her towel, smelling like vanilla and lies. My mind raced. Every instinct screamed at me to storm into that bathroom and confront her, to demand answers, to throw the phone in her face and watch her scramble for excuses. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the lawyer in me. I'd spent 6 years as a litigation attorney before switching to corporate law, and I knew better than anyone that evidence wins cases, not emotions. Or maybe it was the sick, creeping realization that if she'd been lying for 14 months, I needed to know exactly how deep this went before I made a single move. I photographed every message on that phone. My fingers moved mechanically, screenshot after screenshot, uploading them to a cloud account Natalie didn't know existed. The conversation with Jay painted a picture that made my stomach turn. Hotel rooms every Thursday when she claimed to have late yoga classes. Weekend conferences for her marketing job that apparently involved more horizontal activities than professional development. Intimate details about our marriage, our fights, our finances, even our bedroom life, discussed like I was some obstacle to be managed rather than a husband to be respected. One message from 3 months ago stopped me cold. He actually believed the story about needing separate savings for my mom's medical bills. Deposited another $5K yesterday. We're almost at $30K now. Costa Rica is going to be perfect. My vision blurred. The separate account. She'd come to me in tears last spring, explaining that her mother needed expensive treatments not covered by insurance. I'd insisted on helping, had liquidated part of my retirement fund to contribute. Her mother, who'd sent us a cheerful postcard from her Alaskan cruise just last month. The bathroom door opened. I shoved the phone in my pocket and grabbed the towel I'd brought to clean up the water. Babe? Natalie's voice drifted down the hall, sing-songy and sweet. You almost ready? Our reservation is at noon. Right. Our anniversary lunch at Marcello's, the Italian place where we'd had our first date. I'd taken the whole day off work, had a jewelry box in my car with diamond earrings that cost more than my first car. Yeah, I called back, surprised at how normal my voice sounded. Just cleaning up. Bailey knocked something over. She appeared in the doorway, dark hair wet and combed back, face fresh and beautiful and completely, utterly false. She'd been pretty when we met at a mutual friend's barbecue 10 years ago. Pretty enough to make me forget my usual caution, to fall hard and fast in a way I'd never experienced before or since. Now, looking at her, all I could see was a stranger wearing my wife's face. Poor puppy, she cooed, kneeling to scratch Bailey's ears. Did you make a mess? The dog, traitor that he was, licked her hand enthusiastically. Nothing major, I said, standing up. I've got it handled. She smiled at me, that same warm smile that had convinced me she was the one, that had stood beside me through my father's death and her own miscarriage 3 years ago, that I'd trusted more than anything in this world. Happy anniversary, Tyler. 10 years. Can you believe it? No, I said honestly. I really can't. She kissed me then, soft and familiar, and I let her, even as the phone in my pocket seemed to burn through the fabric. Even as I calculated how many times she'd kissed me after being with him. Even as I wondered if anything about us had ever been real. I love you, she whispered against my lips. I love you too, I replied, and meant it, which somehow made everything worse. She disappeared back down the hall to get dressed, humming something cheerful and off-key. I listened to her footsteps fade, then pulled out my own phone and opened my contacts. My college roommate Patrick had gone through a brutal divorce 5 years ago. He'd recommended his attorney, a woman with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless when the situation called for it. I'd never imagined I'd need that number. My thumb hovered over the call button. Once I made this move, there was no going back. No pretending I hadn't seen those messages. No one knowing what I now knew. Bailey nudged my hand with his nose, and I looked down at him. His eyes were big and brown and uncomplicated. Dogs didn't lie. Dogs didn't cheat. Dogs didn't steal $30,000 and plan secret vacations with their affair partners. I made the call. The Italian restaurant was exactly as I'd remembered. Exposed brick, candlelight, the smell of garlic and rosemary thick enough to taste. We'd celebrated here before, our 5th anniversary, the night I made partner at the firm, Natalie's promotion to senior marketing director. Now I sat across from a stranger wearing my wife's face, watching her smile over the rim of her wine glass. This Chianti is perfect, she said, setting down the glass. You always know exactly what to order. I nodded, cutting into my chicken marsala. The food tasted like cardboard, but I chewed methodically, swallowed, reached for my own wine. 14 months. Every Thursday. While I'd been reviewing contracts and negotiating mergers, she'd been in hotel rooms with someone whose name I still didn't know. Tyler? Natalie leaned forward, candlelight catching in her dark hair. You seem distracted. Long week, I said. The Riverside merger is getting complicated. You work too hard. Her hand crossed the table, fingers brushing mine. I'm glad we have tonight. Just us. Just us. The phrase hung in the air between us, sharp-edged with irony only I could feel. I let her hand rest against mine for 3 seconds. I counted, before reaching for my wine again. How was yoga yesterday? I asked. She didn't even blink. Intense. We're working on advanced inversions. My shoulders are killing me. The lie came so easily. No hesitation, no tell. I wondered how many times she'd sat across from me like this, spinning fiction while I nodded and believed and loved her. The wine turned sour in my mouth. You should book a massage, I said. Maybe. She smiled. Though the instructor says the soreness means we're making progress. I wanted to ask about the instructor's name, whether the hotel had good water pressure, if Costa Rica was nice this time of year. Instead, I cut another piece of chicken and let the silence settle. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Aren't you going to check that? Natalie asked. It can wait. But it buzzed again. And again. 3 messages in rapid succession. I pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I opened the messages. Patrick Reeves gave me your contact. Reviewed the materials you sent. Can meet Monday 9 a.m. if that works. Bring any additional financial documentation you have access to. Bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts. Also, check if she has any individual retirement accounts or separate assets. The embezzlement angle is solid, but we need full financial picture. I felt Natalie watching me. Everything okay? She asked. Client emergency. I typed back a quick confirmation, then set the phone face down on the table. Nothing that can't wait until Monday. You sure? We can head home if you need to. I'm sure. I met her eyes across the candlelight. Tonight is about us. Our anniversary. 10 years. She reached across the table again, both hands this time capturing mine. 10 years? Can you believe it? No, I thought. I really can't. Feels like yesterday, I said instead. Remember our first anniversary? That terrible bed and breakfast in Mendocino? The one with the leaky roof. And the owner's cat that kept scratching at our door at 3 in the morning. She laughed, the sound bright and familiar. We were so broke we could barely afford it. You made it perfect anyway. Her smile softened. We made it perfect. Together. The word together landed like a stone in my chest. I pulled my hands back, reached for my wine, drained half the glass. Tyler, sorry, I set down the glass. Just thinking about work, the merger. I should probably put together some files this weekend. On our anniversary weekend? Corporate law doesn't really respect personal time. I know, but... She stopped, studied my face. Are you sure you're okay? You've seemed off all day. I had two choices. I could maintain the performance, coast through dessert and drive home and climb into bed next to her and pretend I didn't know what I knew. Or I could flip the table, scatter the wine and pasta, and 10 years of accumulated lies across the restaurant floor. I chose option 3. Actually, I said, I've been thinking about our Kindle account. Natalie blinked. Our what? The shared library. You know, we linked our accounts years ago so we could share books. Oh, right. She looked genuinely confused. Why? Just wondering if you've been reading anything good lately. I saw some new titles in the library. Probably just my usual stuff. Romance novels, thrillers. She picked up her wine. Why do you ask? No reason. Just curious what you're into these days. The waiter appeared with dessert menus. Natalie ordered tiramisu. I asked for espresso. When we were alone again, she leaned forward. You're being weird. Am I? Yes. You're asking about Kindle books and staring at me like, I don't know, like you're looking for something. Maybe I am. Her expression shifted. Something flickered behind her eyes. Calculation, maybe. Or concern. What's going on, Tyler? Nothing. Everything. I smiled, felt how wrong it sat on my face. Just thinking about how much changes in 10 years, how much stays the same. You're scaring me a little. Don't be scared. I pulled out my wallet, dropped my credit card on the table. Let's just get through dessert, then we can go home. Home. The word felt hollow. That house wasn't home anymore. It was a crime scene I happened to live in. Evidence taped behind furniture, lies soaked into the walls. The tiramisu arrived. Natalie ate slowly, watching me over each bite. I sipped my espresso and checked my phone again. Another message from the attorney. One more thing. If she's using any devices or accounts you have access to, document everything. Emails, social media, messaging apps. But don't alter or delete anything. Just preserve and photograph. I thought about the phone still taped behind our dresser. About Bailey, probably sleeping on our bed right now, oblivious to the wreckage unfolding around her. About Natalie's Kindle, sitting in our reading den, full of books I'd never looked at. Reading den. The words triggered something in my memory. We'd set up that room 3 years ago, lined it with bookshelves, bought matching leather chairs, installed the good reading lamps. Natalie spent hours in there, curled up with her e-reader while I worked late at the office. What had she been reading? Tyler. Natalie's voice cut through my thoughts. Seriously, what's wrong? I told you, nothing. You're lying. The accusation hit like a slap. I almost laughed. Almost told her everything right there. About the phone, the messages, the $30,000, the 14 months of Thursdays that had nothing to do with yoga. Almost asked her how it felt to accuse someone else of lying when she'd built our entire marriage on fiction. Instead, I stood up. I need some air. Tyler, just 5 minutes. I'll be right back. I walked out before she could respond, pushed through the restaurant's front door into the cool Oregon evening. The street was quiet, downtown Ashland settling into its Friday night rhythm. Couples strolled past. A group of college students laughed outside a bar. Normal people living normal lives, untouched by betrayal. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the attorney. It was a notification from Amazon. A Kindle highlight had been shared to our family library. I opened it. The book title made my stomach drop. Dangerous Liaisons, a Modern Romance. The highlighted passage read, "The thrill wasn't just in the secret meetings. It was in coming home afterward, in lying beside someone who had no idea where I'd been, what I'd done." The deception itself became its own kind of intimacy. Below the highlight, a note. "This is us, every Thursday, every lie, I love it." N. The timestamp showed 7:43 p.m., 20 minutes ago, while we were eating dinner. She'd been highlighting and sharing passages about our affair during our anniversary dinner. The screen glowed in the darkness of our reading den, that converted second bedroom where we'd installed floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and matching leather recliners, where we'd supposedly shared our love of reading for the past 3 years. I stood in the doorway, my phone still in my hand from checking Natalie's Kindle highlights at the restaurant. The e-reader sat on the side table next to her chair, right where she always left it. The sight of it made my stomach turn. Bailey brushed past me, settling into his usual spot on the rug between the two chairs. Traitor that he was, he'd probably spent countless evenings here while Natalie highlighted passages about deception and shared them with Jay. I picked up her Kindle, the e-ink screen waking to show the last page she'd read. The Arrangement, by someone named Emma Crawford. The cover showed a tasteful silhouette, nothing overtly explicit, but the description promised a forbidden romance that tests the boundaries of desire and loyalty. My litigation instincts kicked in. Evidence. I needed to document everything. I opened my laptop and navigated to Amazon's website, logging into our shared family account. We'd linked our Kindle libraries years ago, one of those small intimacies of marriage, sharing books and recommendations. Now that connection would show me exactly what she'd been reading, and who she'd been sharing it with. The popular highlights feature loaded. Every passage she'd marked, every note she'd made, all time-stamped and organized. I started scrolling. The thrill wasn't just in his touch, but in the secret itself. Every lie to her husband made her feel more alive. Highlighted March 15th, shared with one person. March 15th. A Thursday. Yoga day. She'd become an expert at compartmentalization. Morning coffee with her husband, afternoon passion with her lover, evening domesticity as if nothing had changed. Highlighted April 3rd, shared with one person. The money was just sitting there in their joint account, and didn't she deserve it more? She was the one truly living. Highlighted May 22nd, shared with one person. May 22nd. 2 days after she'd told me her mother needed another $5,000 for treatments. I sat back in my chair, my hands shaking. She hadn't just been having an affair. She'd been studying it, curating it, turning our marriage into research material for her own private romance novel. I clicked through to see who she'd shared the highlights with. The Kindle family sharing showed linked accounts. Mine, hers, and J. Davis, reads. J. Davis. Finally, a last name. I opened a new tab and started searching. J. Davis, Ashland, Oregon. Too many results. I needed more information. Back to the Kindle library. I filtered by books lent to J. Davis Reads. 17 books. All romance novels. All with increasingly explicit descriptions. The lending history showed a pattern. She'd been sharing books with this account for 18 months. 4 months before the affair started, according to the burner phone timeline. So they'd been building up to it. Book recommendations turning into something more. I checked the account details. Amazon showed limited information for privacy, but the lending feature kept transaction records. J. Davis Reads had borrowed The Arrangement on February 10th. Natalie had highlighted that first passage about the thrill of deception on February 14th, Valentine's Day. While I'd been at the office preparing for a contract negotiation, she'd been at home, highlighting passages about betrayal and sharing them with her future lover. My phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. Almost done with book club. Should be home by 10. Love you. Book club. Right? The same book club that supposedly met every second Friday but never seemed to read any books I recognized from her Kindle. I checked the calendar. Second Friday of the month. I pulled up her Kindle activity for previous second Fridays. No reading activity. Not a single page turned during her book club hours. But plenty of activity afterward, late at night, presumably after I'd fallen asleep. Highlighting, sharing, communicating through literary passages like some kind of coded love letter. She wondered if her husband suspected, but his trusting nature made him blind to what was happening under his own roof. Highlighted June 7th, 11:47 p.m. Shared with one person. June 7th, our anniversary trip to the coast. She'd highlighted that passage while lying next to me in the hotel bed. I stood up, pacing the small room. The bookshelves seemed to mock me now. All those books we'd supposedly shared. All those evenings reading companionably, side by side. How many of those nights had she been highlighting passages about infidelity? How many had she been mentally composing messages to J. Davis? Bailey whined softly, sensing my agitation. "It's okay, boy," I said, though it wasn't. Nothing was okay. I sat back down and started taking screenshots. Every highlight, every shared passage, every timestamp. The attorney would want this. Evidence of premeditation, of planning, of the emotional affair that had preceded the physical one. Then I found the notes section. Natalie had been leaving notes on certain passages. Private annotations that she thought only she could see. But our linked library meant I could see them too. "This is us," she'd written next to a passage about secret Thursday meetings. Exactly how I feel, next to a description of guilt transforming into exhilaration. "Can't wait to show you this one," next to a particularly steamy scene that made my face burn with humiliation and rage. The most recent note was from this afternoon, time-stamped at 2:47 p.m., during our anniversary lunch, while I was in the bathroom checking messages from the attorney. Reading this at our anniversary dinner. He has no idea. The irony is delicious. She'd written that about the deception passage, the one she'd highlighted right in front of me at Marcello's. I saved everything. Screenshots, exported highlights, lending history, notes. Then I started documenting the pattern. A spreadsheet, because of course I made a spreadsheet, correlating her highlighted passages with dates from the burner phone messages. Thursday, March 15th. Highlighted passage about secret meetings. Burner phone showed a message to Jay. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. Thursday, April 3rd. Highlighted passage about compartmentalization. Burner phone. He actually thanked me for taking time for self-care, if he only knew. Monday, May 22nd. Highlighted passage about deserving the money. Burner phone. Another 5K secured. Costa Rica fund growing. The correlation was perfect. She'd been documenting her affair in real time through shared book highlights, creating a parallel narrative of her betrayal, sharing it with her lover, all while maintaining the fiction of our happy marriage. I checked the time. 9:30. She'd be home in 30 minutes. I had a decision to make. The attorney had said to gather evidence before confrontation. I had evidence now, more than I'd imagined possible. But I also had something else. Access to their communication channel that they didn't know was compromised. I could recall all the lent books. Amazon's lending feature allowed that. Just click a button, and every book she'd shared with J. Davis Reads would be revoked, yanked back to her library only. But that would alert them. They'd know I'd discovered the connection. Or I could report the account sharing as a violation of Amazon's terms of service. Sharing outside of household members, using the family library for non-family relationships. It was technically content piracy, and Amazon took that seriously. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. No, not yet. The attorney first. Monday morning, 9 a.m. I'd bring all of this, let him tell me how to weaponize it properly. Divorce proceedings, asset division, alimony calculations. All of it would be affected by this evidence of calculated deception and financial fraud. I closed the laptop and picked up her Kindle again. The device felt contaminated now, like the burner phone. I put it back exactly where I'd found it, screen showing the same page. Bailey stretched and yawned, ready for bed. "Come on, boy," I said. "Let's go pretend everything's normal." I walked upstairs to our bedroom, the room where this had all started this morning with spilled water and a hidden phone. The dresser stood against the wall, innocent-looking now. I'd put the burner phone back exactly as I'd found it, taped behind the furniture after photographing everything. Natalie's real phone sat charging on her nightstand. I picked it up, no passcode between us, another small intimacy of marriage, and checked her Kindle app. The last highlight synced across devices. That note from this afternoon. Reading this at our anniversary dinner. He has no idea. The irony is delicious. I set the phone down carefully. Headlights swept across the bedroom window. Her car in the driveway. I heard the garage door open, her footsteps in the kitchen, her cheerful voice calling out, "Tyler, I'm home." I took a breath and headed downstairs, my face arranged in an expression of normalcy. "How was book club?" I asked. She smiled, that same bright smile from this morning, from lunch, from every lie she'd told for 14 months. "Oh, she said. "Same as always. We barely talked about the book." At least that part was true. The reading den had always been Natalie's domain. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 3 walls, though most of them held decorative objects now. Pottery we'd bought on our 5th anniversary trip to Santa Fe, framed photos from our wedding, a collection of vintage bookends she'd inherited from her grandmother. The actual books had migrated almost entirely to digital years ago. I stood in the doorway Sunday morning, coffee cooling in my hand, watching dust motes drift through the sunlight. Natalie was at her yoga class, the real one apparently, since it was Sunday and not Thursday. I had 2 hours. The Kindle sat on the side table next to her reading chair, the leather case worn soft from use. I'd never paid much attention to her reading habits. She devoured romance novels the way some people binged Netflix series, sometimes finishing 2 or 3 in a weekend. I'd found it endearing, the way she'd curl up in that chair with a glass of wine, occasionally reading passages aloud that made her laugh. Now I wondered how many of those passages she'd shared with J. Davis instead. I picked up the device, the e-ink screen showing the cover of whatever she'd been reading last. The Betrayer's Heart, by someone named Melissa Grant. Of course. The Kindle woke to her library when I swiped. Hundreds of titles, organized into collections. Beach reads, historical, spicy, comfort rereads. I navigated to the settings, found the household sharing options. There it was. My account linked to hers, a feature we'd set up years ago so we could share books and split the cost. But there was something else. A sharing history I'd never noticed before. I pulled out my phone and opened my own Kindle app, navigating through menus I'd never explored. Popular highlights, notes, and there, shared with other readers. The first one I found was from 3 weeks ago, from a book called Dangerous Liaisons Redux. She felt most alive when she was lying to him, each deception a small rebellion against the mundane prison of her marriage. Natalie had highlighted it, shared it, added a note, "Truth tastes like freedom." My hands steadied as I started taking screenshots. This wasn't grief anymore. This was evidence. I spent the next hour documenting everything. The Kindle kept a meticulous record. Every book she'd read, every passage she'd highlighted, every note she'd made. The sharing function showed which highlights were public, which were shared with specific users. J. Davis reads appeared again and again. They'd been sharing passages for 18 months, I discovered Friday night. But the pattern was more intricate than I'd realized. It wasn't just her sharing with him. They were having conversations through the highlights, a literary affair running parallel to the physical one. From The Other Woman, 6 months ago. Natalie's highlight. The hotel room became their universe, a place where wedding rings meant nothing and promises were made to be broken. J. Davis reads note on the same passage. Room 412 next Thursday? Natalie's reply. Can't wait. From Stolen Hours, 4 months ago. J. Davis reads highlight. He wondered if her husband suspected, if the man noticed the way she smiled at her phone, the new lingerie, the sudden interest in Thursday evening yoga. Natalie's note. He notices nothing. 10 years, and he still thinks I'm reading Jane Austen. I sat back in her reading chair, the Kindle heavy in my hands. The cruelty of it was almost impressive. She'd been mocking me through book highlights, creating a shared joke with her lover about my obliviousness, and I'd been paying for half the books. Bailey padded into the room and rested his head on my knee. I scratched behind his ears, grateful for something uncomplicated. My phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. Stopping at Whole Foods after class. Need anything? I typed back, We're good. Take your time. The Kindle app on my phone synced with her device automatically, another feature of our household sharing. I could see everything she could see, access every book she'd purchased. But more importantly, I could see the account management options. Family library, household settings, content, and devices. I opened my laptop and logged into Amazon, navigating to the Manage Your Content and Devices section. Our accounts were linked there too, showing every book either of us had purchased, every loan either of us had made. Loans. The feature let Kindle users lend certain books to other users for 14 days. I pulled up Natalie's lending history. Dozens of loans to J. Davis reads over the past year and a half. Romance novels, mostly. Erotica. Books with titles like The Affair Arrangement and Forbidden Thursdays and The Liar's Lover. Each loan was documented with dates. I cross-referenced them with the messages on the burner phone, with the calendar entries for yoga and conferences. The pattern was obvious. She'd lend him a book, they'd read it simultaneously, share highlights, and meet up to discuss it. Or whatever they actually did in those hotel rooms. I started compiling a spreadsheet. Date of loan, title of book, shared highlights, corresponding messages from the burner phone, meeting dates and locations. The data painted a picture more damning than any private investigator's photos could have. This wasn't just infidelity. This was premeditation, coordination, a systematic deception that left digital breadcrumbs across multiple platforms. And she'd been stupid enough to do it all through accounts I had access to. My attorney meeting was tomorrow at 9. I'd planned to bring the burner phone screenshots, the bank statements showing the embezzlement, maybe some character witnesses who could testify to her deception about her mother's health. But this was something else entirely. This was a complete archive of her affair, time-stamped and geotagged and shared through Amazon servers. This was evidence even she couldn't deny. I looked at the account settings again. As the primary account holder, I'd set up the household sharing originally. I had certain administrative privileges. I could remove devices, deregister Kindles, end sharing agreements, and I could report content policy violations. Amazon's terms of service were clear about sharing digital content. Household sharing was meant for family members living at the same address. Lending was permitted for eligible titles, but only to legitimate contacts. Using these features to facilitate an extramarital affair, to share intimate notes and coordinate meetings for infidelity, that probably violated several policies. More importantly, if Amazon audited her account, they'd see everything. Every shared highlight, every note, every loan to J. Davis Reads. They'd have their own record of her affair, completely independent of anything I provided. I opened a new browser tab and navigated to Amazon's customer service page. There was a form for reporting content policy violations, terms of service abuse, account misuse. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This felt different from gathering evidence. This felt like the first active move, the first step from defense to offense. Once I filed this report, there was no taking it back. Amazon would investigate. They might suspend her account. They might contact her about the violations. She'd know something was wrong, but my attorney meeting was tomorrow morning. I'd be filing for divorce by tomorrow afternoon, most likely. The element of surprise was already lost, or would be, within 24 hours. I thought about her text from the burner phone, the one where she'd called me clueless, the one where she'd laughed about stealing money from our retirement fund, the one where she'd planned her escape to Costa Rica with a man whose full name I still didn't know. I clicked the report button and started typing. Nature of violation. Misuse of family library and lending features to facilitate and coordinate extramarital affair. Sharing of intimate content and personal notes with non-household member. Possible fraud regarding household membership status. Description. I attached screenshots, highlighted passages with their shared notes. The lending history showing dozens of loans to an account belonging to someone outside our household. The pattern of coordination between book shares and the affair timeline I documented. I included dates, titles, specific examples of how they'd use the platform to communicate and plan their meetings. I noted that I was the primary account holder, that J. Davis Reads was not a family member, and that the lending and sharing features were being used in ways that clearly violated the household sharing terms. Supporting evidence. I uploaded the spreadsheet I'd created, cross-referencing the Kindle activity with bank statements showing the dates Natalie had claimed to be at conferences and the hotel charges that had appeared on our credit card. Then I hit submit. The confirmation page loaded. Thank you for your report. Amazon takes terms of service violations seriously. Our team will review your submission and take appropriate action. You will receive an email update within 5 to 7 business days. I closed the laptop and set the Kindle back on the side table, exactly where I'd found it. My phone buzzed again. Natalie. Home in 10. Grab stuff for French toast. Your favorite. I looked at Bailey. She's making me French toast, buddy. Isn't that sweet? He wagged his tail, oblivious to the irony. I had 10 minutes to make sure everything looked undisturbed. 10 minutes before, I had to smile and eat breakfast with a woman who'd spent the last 18 months sharing intimate passages about betrayal with her lover, using an account I paid for, mocking me through highlighted text while I slept beside her. The reading den looked exactly as it had when I'd entered. Peaceful, quiet, a room dedicated to stories and imagination. I wondered what story Natalie would tell when Amazon audited her account. When they asked her to explain the lending pattern, when they requested clarification about her household membership status, and whether J. Davis Reads qualified as family. I wondered what story she'd tell the divorce court when I presented 18 months of literary evidence, every highlighted passage and shared note, every loan and every mocking comment, all compiled into a timeline that proved premeditation and malice. But mostly, I wondered if she'd realize, when it all came crashing down, that she documented her own affair in the one format that could never be truly deleted. Digital text, cloud storage, Amazon servers. The irony was almost poetic. I heard her car in the driveway. Bailey's tail went into overdrive, and I headed to the kitchen to greet my wife. Time to eat some French toast. The Amazon confirmation email arrived at 11:47 p.m., clinical and corporate. We have received your report regarding account violations and will investigate accordingly. Please allow 3 to 5 business days for review. 3 to 5 business days. I had until Monday morning, 34 hours, before Natalie might receive her own notification. Before the corporate machinery I'd set in motion intersected with the legal machinery I'd hired. I closed my laptop and looked at Bailey, who'd relocated from his bed to the floor beside my chair, chin resting on my foot. The weight felt anchoring. Real. "Good boy," I whispered. Upstairs, the bathroom door opened. Water ran. The familiar sounds of Natalie's nighttime routine filtered through the floorboards. Electric toothbrush, cabinet opening, the particular creak of the third drawer where she kept her face creams. My wife. The stranger. The woman who'd written, "He notices nothing," while sitting across from me at our anniversary dinner. I pulled up the Kindle screenshots again, scrolling through the lending history. 18 months of digital breadcrumbs. Each book a message, each highlight a secret conversation conducted in plain sight on our shared Amazon account. Dangerous Liaisons. Lent to J. Davis. Reads, March 2023. The Bridges of Madison County. Lent to J. Davis. Reads, April 2023, Lady Chatterley's lover. Lent to J. Davis. Reads, May 2023. The progression was almost academic. Literary affairs leading to contemporary romance, then to the explicitly erotic titles from recent months. Each book carefully selected, each lending transaction time-stamped and archived in Amazon servers. But it was the highlights that formed the real narrative. I opened The Bridges of Madison County, navigating to the shared notes section. Natalie had highlighted a passage about Francesca's husband. He was a good man, but he didn't understand the woman she'd become. Perhaps he'd never tried. J. Davis. Reeds had responded in the notes. Some people see surfaces. Others see souls. Natalie's reply, time-stamped 2:34 a.m. on a Thursday. I'd been sleeping beside her. He sees neither. Just the life he thinks we have. I'd read these exchanges before, during my initial discovery spiral. But now, post-Amazon report, I was seeing them differently. Not as evidence of betrayal, that was established, but as evidence of something else. Stupidity. They documented everything. Every meeting, every mocking observation, every self-satisfied philosophical musing about their grand passion. All stored on servers owned by one of the world's largest corporations, governed by terms of service they'd violated, time-stamped, and cross-referenced and utterly, completely recoverable. Natalie worked in marketing. She understood digital footprints. Yet she'd treated our shared Kindle library like a private messaging service, apparently confident that I'd never notice, never look, never question why she was suddenly lending books to someone named J. Davis Reads. He notices nothing. The footsteps creaked overhead, moving from bathroom to bedroom. I heard the particular sound of her side of the bed, the rustle of covers. Sunday night routine, same as always. I pulled up my email and composed a new message to the attorney, Kevin Wright. Subject line, additional evidence, digital records. Kevin, following up on our Monday 9 a.m. appointment. I've discovered an additional evidence stream. Shared Kindle library highlights and lending records documenting 18 months of communication between my wife and her affair partner. I've reported the account violations to Amazon to create an independent corporate record. Attached are screenshots of the most relevant exchanges, including notes mocking my awareness and coordinating meetings. The account name is J. Davis Reads, I still don't have a full identity on this person. Is there a way to subpoena Amazon for account holder information? Tyler. I attached the 50 most damning screenshots, then paused before hitting send. It was 11:53 p.m. on a Sunday. Wright wouldn't see this until tomorrow morning at the earliest. But sending it now meant it would be waiting for him, time-stamped before any potential Amazon notification reached Natalie. Creating the timeline, building the record. I hit send. Bailey shifted, lifting his head to look toward the stairs. I heard it too. Natalie's footsteps again, lighter now, moving back toward the bathroom. A moment later, her voice drifted down, sing-songy and affectionate. Tyler, are you coming to bed soon? The same voice that had whispered, I love you, across our anniversary table. The same voice that had, according to the burner phone messages, told Jay Davis, 2 more years maximum. Once I have enough saved, I'm gone. I kept my own voice level, casual. Just finishing some work emails, be up in a few. Don't work too late. A pause. Love you. The bathroom door closed again. Water ran. I looked at Bailey. She's good, I said quietly. I'll give her that. My phone buzzed. A response from Wright, despite the late hour. Tyler. Excellent documentation. Amazon subpoena is possible but takes time. Faster route. Reverse image search on the profile picture. Cross-reference the account name with LinkedIn, Facebook. Often people use consistent handles. If Jay Davis Reads has any public presence, we can identify them. Also, check if your wife's phone contacts include anyone with last name Davis. Sometimes they hide in plain sight. See you Monday. KW. I sat back, considering. The burner phone was still in my messenger bag, powered off and wrapped in the kitchen towel. I'd photographed every message but hadn't done a deep dive on the contact information itself. Pulling out the phone, I powered it on, muting it immediately. The screen glowed in the dim office light. One contact. Jay, with a phone number I'd already documented. But Wright was right. People often hid in plain sight. I opened Natalie's regular phone, still on the coffee table where she'd left it while getting ready for bed. No passcode. We'd always had an open phone policy. One of those marriage trust gestures that now seemed almost cosmically ironic. Her contacts loaded. I scrolled to D. Davis, Jennifer, Yoga Studio Davis, Michael, Work Contact Davis, Russell, unknown. I stared at the third entry. Russell Davis. No company affiliation, no relationship note. Just a name and a number. I pulled up my own phone and compared the number to the one stored in the burner phone under Jay Bears. Perfect match. Russell Davis. The faceless threat now had a full name. I opened LinkedIn on my laptop, searching for Russell Davis in Ashland, Oregon. 3 results. The first was a retired accountant in his 70s. The second was a high school teacher. The third. Russell Davis, regional sales manager, Cascade Medical Equipment. The profile picture showed a man in his late 30s, conventionally handsome in that generic corporate way. Broad smile, expensive suit, the kind of professionally shot headshot that screamed, I take myself seriously. His profile listed his location as Medford, 20 minutes from Ashland. His employment history showed he'd been with Cascade Medical for 6 years, promoted to regional manager 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Right around when Natalie had started her marketing consulting side projects, the ones that required Thursday meetings and occasional weekend conferences. I clicked through his connections. 53 mutual connections with Natalie, most of them local business professionals. They ran in the same circles. Probably met at some networking event, some conference, some professional mixer where married people made eye contact and decided their spouses didn't understand them. I took screenshots of everything: his profile, his employment history, his connections to Natalie, his public posts about sales achievements and business travel. The bathroom door opened upstairs. Footsteps moved back to the bedroom. The bed creaked. I powered off the burner phone and returned it to my bag. Closed LinkedIn. Cleared my browser history, not to hide anything, but because I wanted Natalie to have no warning, no hint that I'd moved from discovery to identification. Russell Davis, regional sales manager. Cascade Medical Equipment. The man who'd written, "Some people see surfaces, others see souls." The man who'd helped my wife steal $30,000 and plan an escape to Costa Rica. The man who'd mocked me through Kindle highlights while I slept upstairs. I forwarded Russell Davis's LinkedIn profile to write with a single line, "Found him." Then I stood, stretched, and called Bailey. "Come on, boy, bedtime." We climbed the stairs together, Bailey's tags jingling softly in the quiet house. The bedroom door was open, Natalie already under the covers, her back to my side of the bed. I changed into sleep clothes, brushed my teeth, performed the familiar rituals of a marriage that had ended 18 months ago. I just hadn't known it yet. Sliding into bed, I felt Natalie shift, rolling toward me. Her hand found mine under the covers, fingers interlacing. "Good day," she whispered. I thought about Russell Davis's LinkedIn profile, about the Amazon report processing through corporate channels, about Kevin Wright receiving my emails, about Monday morning, 33 hours away. "Yeah," I said. "Really good day." Her thumb traced circles on my palm, the same gesture she'd done for 10 years. "I'm glad." She fell asleep within minutes, her breathing evening out, her hand going slack in mine. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours until I could start turning her entire world into evidence. The reading den had always been Natalie's domain. I'd built the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves myself back when we first moved to Ashland. Spent 3 weekends measuring, cutting, sanding, staining. She'd supervised with wine and suggestions, rearranging her paperbacks and hardcovers until the color gradient satisfied her aesthetic sensibilities. Romance novels on the left, literary fiction in the middle, thrillers on the right. The Kindle had been my anniversary gift to her 5 years ago. Practical, I'd thought, for someone who read 2 books a week. I'd never imagined it would become their private messaging system. Sunday night, after Bailey's evening walk, I stood in the doorway of the den while Natalie curled in the leather reading chair, her Kindle propped on her knees. The e-ink screen cast a pale glow across her face. She looked peaceful, content. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Kevin Wright's response to my Sunday evening follow-up. "Got everything. Monday, 9 a.m. still works. Bring the devices if you can." I couldn't bring the burner phone. I'd photographed it and returned it to its hiding place behind the dresser. But the Kindle was right there, 10 feet away, full of evidence she didn't know I'd already documented. "Good book?" I asked. She glanced up, smiling. "Really good. That thriller you got me for Christmas? I'm finally getting to it." The Girl on the Train. I'd bought it based on a colleague's recommendation. Ironic, really. A psychological thriller about deception and memory, sitting in her library alongside the romance novels she'd been using to coordinate hotel meetups. "The one about the woman on the train?" I said. She returned to the screen, swiping to the next page. "The narrator's so unreliable. You keep thinking you know what's happening, then everything shifts." I watched her thumb move across the screen. Tap, highlight, note. The same gestures she'd used to mark passages for Russell Davis. "Thursday works, the usual place." Hidden in a paragraph about forbidden desire in some historical romance. "I'm going to make tea," I said. "Want some?" "Please." The chamomile. In the kitchen, I filled the kettle and pulled out my phone. The screenshots I'd taken of her Kindle account were organized in a folder labeled Library. 18 months of shared highlights, notes, and book loans. I'd spent Saturday afternoon building a timeline, cross-referencing the Kindle activity with her burner phone messages. The pattern was meticulous. They'd started with innocent book recommendations. Russell had lent her The Nightingale. She'd lent him All the Light We Cannot See. Then the highlights began. Short phrases, seemingly random, embedded in highlighted passages about love and longing. By month 3, they'd developed a code. Yellow highlights meant nothing, just cover. Blue highlights contained actual messages, usually coordinates or confirmations. The kettle whistled. I poured water over tea bags, watching the chamomile bloom and darken. What fascinated me, in the detached clinical way I'd learned to examine evidence, was the literary pretension of it. They could have used any messaging app with disappearing messages, Signal, Telegram, even Snapchat, but instead they'd chosen Kindle, turning book loans and highlights into some kind of intellectual affair. As if the medium made it more sophisticated, more justified. I carried the mugs back to the den. Natalie had shifted position, legs tucked beneath her, completely absorbed. I set her tea on the side table and settled onto the couch with Bailey at my feet. "Thanks, babe," she murmured, not looking up. I opened my own Kindle app on my phone. We shared the same family library, which was how I'd accessed all her activity in the first place. I scrolled through the book she'd recently read. The Time Traveler's Wife. One Day. Me Before You. All tragic love stories. All stories about people who couldn't be together, separated by circumstances beyond their control. I wondered if she saw herself as the romantic heroine. Star-crossed, misunderstood, trapped in a loveless marriage with someone who noticed nothing. My marriage. Loveless. 10 years of building a life together, and she'd rewritten our entire story to justify what she wanted. I'd become the obstacle in her narrative, the boring husband who worked too much, who'd chosen corporate law over litigation because I wanted stable hours and less stress, who came home for dinner, who remembered anniversaries, who'd apparently stopped being enough somewhere around month -4 of the affair when the Kindle lending had started. "Tyler," Natalie's voice pulled me back. She was looking at me over her Kindle, concern creasing her forehead. "You okay? You've been staring at your phone for like 5 minutes." "Just work email," I said. "Nothing urgent." "On a Sunday night?" She set down her Kindle, reaching for her tea. "I thought corporate was supposed to be better about boundaries." "Usually is. Just tying up some loose ends before a Monday meeting." "Anything interesting?" I met her eyes. Dark brown, familiar, currently performing concern. "Asset recovery case. Someone's been moving money around trying to hide it. Pretty standard stuff." "Sounds complicated." "It's really not." I locked my phone. Once you find the paper trail, it's just following the evidence. People think they're being clever, but they always leave traces. She sipped her tea, nodding. "I'm glad I don't have to deal with that kind of thing. Marketing's dramatic enough without adding legal issues." "How's work been?" I asked. "You've been putting in a lot of hours lately." "Busy season. You know how it is. Q4 planning, budget reviews, strategy sessions." The lies came so easily, smooth as the chamomile tea sliding down her throat. "I'm just glad we got our anniversary in before things get really crazy." "Me too." She smiled, warm and genuine looking. "Marcello's was perfect. You always know exactly what I need." "What you need, not what you want." Interesting choice of words. My phone buzzed again. Kevin Wright. "One more thing. Does she have access to your retirement accounts?" I typed back, 401k is mine only. Joint savings, checking. We'll bring statements." "Work?" Natalie asked. "Yeah, Monday meeting prep." She returned to her Kindle, and I watched her read. The way she bit her lower lip when something surprised her. The slight crease between her eyebrows when she concentrated. Mannerisms I'd memorized over a decade, now rendered strange by context. Every gesture was the same, but everything had changed. I pulled up the Kindle family library on my phone and navigated to her recent activity. She was currently reading The Girl on the Train, page 247. I could see her highlights in real time as she made them. The family sharing feature updated live. She highlighted a passage. Yellow, so meaningless. Just part of the cover pattern. Then another. Blue. I felt my pulse quicken. I tapped the highlight to see the full passage. The thing about being barren is that you're not allowed to get away from it. People look at you and wonder what's wrong with you, why you're different, why you failed at the most basic biological function. Within the highlight, she'd added a note. Tuesday, 3 p.m. I checked the timestamp. 9:47 p.m. Sunday night, and she was setting up another meeting. While drinking the tea I'd made her. While sitting 10 feet away from me. The audacity was almost impressive. My phone was still open to the family library. I could see everything she was doing in real time. Every highlight, every note, every page turn. She had no idea I was watching her compose messages to Russell Davis. No idea I'd been documenting this for days. I could recall the book loan right now. Revoke her access to The Girl on the Train. Make it disappear from her library mid-page. Watch her confusion, her scramble to figure out what happened. But that would tip my hand. Better to let her keep writing. Keep documenting. Keep building my case. She made another highlight. Yellow again, then blue. I have lost control over everything, even the places in my head. Note. Confirm Thursday 2. Miss you. Miss you. While her husband sat on the couch 12 feet away, while the dog she claimed to love slept on the floor, while the chamomile tea I'd made her cooled on the table beside her. I opened my email and forwarded the real-time screenshots to Kevin Wright with a subject line. Active communication, Sunday, 9:47 p.m. His response came within 30 seconds. Jesus, save everything. See you at 9. Natalie turned a page, sipped her tea, completely absorbed in her book and her secret messages. The reading den was silent except for Bailey's soft snoring and the occasional tap of Natalie's finger on the e-ink screen. I'd built these shelves for her. Sanded them smooth, stained them the exact shade of walnut she'd wanted. Installed the reading light at the precise angle that wouldn't cause glare. Made this room perfect for her. And she'd turned it into a communication center for her affair. I think I'm going to head to bed, I said, standing. Bailey lifted his head, considering whether to follow. Big day tomorrow. I'll be up soon, Natalie said, not looking away from her Kindle. Just want to finish this section. Take your time. I paused in the doorway, looking back. She was silhouetted against the bookshelves I'd built, the lamp I'd positioned, surrounded by the life we'd constructed together. Still typing messages to another man. Still highlighting passages in books I'd helped pay for, using a device I'd given her, on an account I'd created for our family library. Every gift I'd given her had become a weapon she'd used against me. Natalie, I said. She looked up. Yeah? I love you. Her smile was radiant. I love you too, babe. Sweet dreams. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, Bailey following this time. Through the floor, I could hear the faint tap of Natalie's fingers on the Kindle screen. Still writing. Still planning. Still believing she was getting away with it. My phone showed 10:03 p.m. In 11 hours, I'd be sitting across from Kevin Wright, handing over devices and documents and spreadsheets. In 11 hours, the evidence-gathering phase would end and the action phase would begin. I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m. and plugged in my phone. Downstairs, Natalie was still typing. The attorney's office occupied the third floor of a renovated brick building downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of aggressive minimalism that signaled expensive hourly rates. Kevin Wright met me in the lobby at exactly 9 a.m., handshake firm, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Tyler, good to finally meet in person." He gestured toward the conference room. "Let's get started." I'd brought everything: bank statements showing the embezzlement, screenshots from the burner phone, the Kindle evidence, hundreds of pages documenting 18 months of literary adultery, Russell Davis's LinkedIn profile, a timeline correlating her yoga classes with hotel charges on our credit card. Wright spread the documents across the mahogany table, reading in silence. 5 minutes passed. 10. Finally, he looked up. "This is comprehensive," he said. "Possibly the most documented case of infidelity I've encountered. The financial fraud alone gives us significant leverage. Oregon's a no-fault state, but this level of deception affects asset division, especially with the embezzlement angle." "What's the timeline?" I asked. "We file today. She'll be served tomorrow, probably at work." Given the evidence, I'd expect her attorney to push for quick settlement rather than discovery. "Nobody wants this going to deposition." He paused. "The Kindle evidence is particularly damaging. It's time-stamped, it's archived on Amazon servers, and it shows premeditation. If she contests anything, we have a minute-by-minute record of her planning this affair." "And the money?" "We'll recover the $30,000, plus damages for fraud. Her inheritance from her grandmother 3 years ago. That's separate property, she keeps it. But everything accumulated during the marriage gets divided, and given her behavior, we're positioned for a favorable split." Wright closed the folder. "One question. Are you certain about this?" "Once we file, it's public record. Your marriage ends today." I thought about Natalie highlighting passages at our anniversary dinner. About Russell Davis's smug LinkedIn profile. About 10 years of building a life with someone who'd turned it into research material for her secret romance. "I'm certain," I said. Wright nodded and opened his laptop. "Then let's begin." The paperwork took 90 minutes. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Financial affidavits. Exhibit lists running 7 pages. Wright's paralegal made copies while we reviewed the service strategy. "We'll use a professional process server," Wright explained. "Tomorrow, Tuesday, probably around 2 p.m. at her office. Clean, public, documented." "She's planning to meet Russell Davis at 3, I said. "According to her Kindle messages from last night." Wright's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Even better. Serves her at work, she cancels the meeting, he knows something's wrong, puts pressure on both of them immediately." I signed the last form and pushed it across the table. My signature looked strange, too steady, too calm for what it represented. The legal end of a marriage. The formal acknowledgement that the woman I'd loved for 10 years had become a stranger who mocked me through book highlights. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now you go home, act normal, and wait. Don't confront her, don't change your routine, don't give any indication you know. Tomorrow she gets served and everything changes." Wright stood, extending his hand again. "I know this isn't easy, but you're doing the right thing." I shook his hand and left, the filing receipt folded in my pocket like a talisman. The house was empty when I got home. Natalie had texted that she was running errands, which probably meant coordinating with Russell about their Tuesday meeting. I found Bailey in the reading den, sleeping in a patch of sunlight near Natalie's chair. Her Kindle sat on the side table, screen dark. I picked it up, powered it on, navigated to her recent highlights. The messages from last night were still there. Tuesday, 3 p.m., and confirm Thursday, 2. Miss you. In 24 hours, she'd be served with divorce papers. The affair she'd documented so carefully would become evidence in court filings. Russell Davis would learn that his literary romance had legal consequences, and I would start rebuilding a life that didn't include chamomile tea and lies. My phone buzzed. Natalie. Home by 6. Want to try that new Thai place for dinner? I typed back, sounds good. One more night of pretending. One more performance of normalcy. Then tomorrow, the truth. I spent the afternoon working from home, reviewing contracts for the Riverside merger, responding to emails, maintaining the fiction of routine. At 5:30, I heard Natalie's car in the driveway. She came through the door carrying shopping bags, smiling, perfectly normal. Hey babe, I found the cutest throw pillows for the den. Wanna see? We ate Thai food. We discussed her work, my work, Bailey's upcoming vet appointment. We watched an episode of the cooking show we'd been following together. We went to bed at 11, and she fell asleep with her hand in mine, the same way she had for 10 years. I lay awake, counting down the hours. The process server called right at 2:17 p.m. on Tuesday. Natalie had been served in the lobby of her office building, in front of colleagues, just as she was heading out for her 3 p.m. meeting with Russell Davis. Wright called me at 2:22. It's done. She's been served. Expect contact soon. My phone rang at 2:34. Tyler, Natalie's voice was ragged, panicked. Tyler, what the hell is this? Someone just handed me divorce papers. This is a mistake, right? Some kind of identity theft or... It's not a mistake, I said. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Why would you... We just had our anniversary. I know about Russell Davis, I said. I know about the hotel rooms. I know about the $30,000. I know about Costa Rica. The silence stretched longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Smaller. Tyler, I can explain. I found your burner phone. I've read every message. I've documented every Kindle highlight you shared with him. I've compiled 18 months of evidence and my attorney has all of it. I kept my voice level, professional. Don't come home tonight. Stay with a friend. Stay with Russell. I don't care. But don't come home. Tyler, please, if we could just talk. Talk to your attorney, I said, and ended the call. She tried calling back 6 times. I didn't answer. At 4:15, she sent a text. I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Please let me explain. At 5:30, it's over with him. It was never serious. You're my husband. Please. At 7, Moz, I'll go to therapy. We can fix this. Please don't do this. I blocked her number and spent the evening with Bailey, throwing his tennis ball in the backyard until the sun set and the air turned cool. The house felt different without her in it. Emptier, but also cleaner. Like something contaminated had been removed. Wright called at 8 p.m. Her attorney contacted me. They want to negotiate settlement. She's not going to contest. Good, I said. They're offering to return the $30,000 immediately and accept a 40-60 asset split in your favor. She keeps her inheritance, her car, her personal effects. You keep the house, the retirement accounts, Bailey. What about alimony? She's waiving it. Wants this done quietly, no discovery, no depositions. She knows what we have. I thought about the Kindle highlights, about Russell Davis's LinkedIn profile, about the paper trail that would destroy her professionally if it became public record. Tell them we have a deal, I said. On one condition, she signs an NDA about the affair. No public statements, no social media, no telling her version to mutual friends. She stays silent, or the evidence becomes public. Wright was quiet for a moment. That's aggressive. She spent 18 months mocking me through book highlights. She stole from our retirement fund. She planned to abandon our marriage for a man she met at a networking event. I looked at Bailey, who was watching me with concerned eyes. I'm being generous by letting her keep her dignity. I'll make the call, Wright said. The divorce was finalized on December 3rd, 6 weeks after I'd found the burner phone. Natalie signed everything without contest. The settlement agreement, the asset division, the NDA. I never saw her again after that Tuesday afternoon. She'd moved in with a friend, then into her own apartment across town. The house sold in February. I bought a smaller place in the hills with a bigger yard for Bailey. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she and Russell Davis had ended things. Apparently, the reality of legal consequences had dampened their literary romance. She'd left her marketing job and moved to Portland. He'd been transferred to Cascade Medical's Seattle office. The Kindle evidence never became public. Wright had been right. Nobody wanted discovery. But I kept the screenshots anyway, filed in a folder on my laptop labeled Library. A reminder that people always leave traces. That deception, however carefully planned, eventually exposes itself. On what would have been our 11th anniversary, I took Bailey hiking in the Siskiyou Mountains. The trail was empty, the air sharp with pine and autumn. At the summit, I sat on a boulder and looked out over the valley, thinking about the past year. I'd learned something about trust. It's not about believing people are good. It's about knowing who they actually are beneath the performance. Natalie had shown me exactly who she was. I'd just been too comfortable to look closely, too willing to accept the surface story, the easy narrative of a happy marriage. The pain had faded, replaced by something clearer. Relief, maybe, or just the absence of pretending. Bailey nudged my hand with his nose, and I scratched behind his ears. Dogs don't lie. Dogs don't keep burner phones taped behind furniture. Dogs don't turn shared Kindle libraries into secret messaging systems. Good boy, I said, and meant it. We hiked back down as the sun set, painting the mountains gold and orange. I thought about Kevin Wright's question from that first meeting. Are you certain about this? I was certain then. I'm certain now. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some marriages don't survive. Some people you love turn out to be strangers wearing familiar faces. But some truths are worth the cost of learning them. And some books, the ones documenting betrayal in highlighted passages and secret notes, are better left closed.